Okay, yesterday had executive work session and had city council meeting last night. Kicked off at 5:15. Didn't have an opportunity to make it to Channel 2 by the bewitching hour because of the rain. Imagine that. You know, Glenn, we're about 1 inch away from having the wettest May on record.
It has been an experience, hasn't it?
You know, so we have today, tomorrow, and Sunday to make that happen. And I don't have any doubt that we're probably going to break the record.
You know, it looks like it. The weather patterns look like we're going to have more rain in the area. We'd like to say we've got 100% humidity right now. We start getting some heat units. It'll start triggering some more thunderstorms. Okay,
now I know you keep your finger on the pulse for the water table, and you know, as far as the water supply for Lubbock and where we get our water. What is all this rain really? Is it? I know it's not negatively affecting us as far as water levels go, but is it positively affecting us? You know, in proportions that are really going to matter.
Well, of course it is. Number one, the lake went from about 60% full, and I say the Lake Allen Henry, to 100% full. Water spilling over the spillway. It's also saturated the ground, filled up the playa lakes. The playa lakes are the natural recharge system for the aquifer. Now, recharging of an aquifer is a very, very slow process, and right now the problem with it occurs at a slower rate than what we're pulling out of the aquifer. But any recharging that goes on helps. The other thing that this does, having this weta period, cuts down on water consumption. So we haven't went through near as much water in the last 2 months as we typically would have in a dry year. So it's huge. Lake Meredith is catching a little bit of this water. Ute Lake started releasing water 2 days ago for the first time in about 7 or 8 years. So all of this has been extremely beneficial and literally worth hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah. At any time, do you feel like, you know, maybe the council or we may modify any sort of ordinance as far as watering when it's raining? Because this is interesting. In the middle of all of this weather, I still see people watering, even when it's raining.
You know, that's people with automatic sprinkler systems that just don't take the time or to go out and turn off the rain-off switch on those systems. I struggle with having more ordinances on the book demanding what people do with the product we're selling them. Now, I think it's our job as a city council to come up with some creative incentives to incentivize people to not waste water. But to just come out and throw more ordinances on the book, I don't think we're at that place yet.
Well, here's the thing, too. Relative code enforcement, those boys and girls are understaffed anyway.
Yeah, we're short 5 or 6 codes officers. We keep putting more and more burden on that department. So it's a little ludicrous for us to keep passing more and more laws when we're having a tough time enforcing the ones we already have on the books.
Right. Throw them in jail, but we don't have any room. I get it. All right, Glenn Robertson here in the house. It's 7:13. We'll be back. Glenn Robertson in the house. Last night's city council meeting. You know, Glenn, with the weather, I was talking earlier. People just exercise complete and total stupidity when it comes to driving in this weather. I mean, you know, I was mentioning that. The morning show guy on FMX, he's in this radio group, 94.5, the rock station. You know, Wes lives out there in the Country Club edition. Said he was going home, you know, early mid-afternoon. And that people were stopped with the hail, and they were under the overpass. And not just on the inside shoulder and the outside shoulder, but across 3 lanes of traffic. And there were like hundreds of cars that were behind them.
Right.
And to quote him, he's like, poor examples of humanity.
Yeah, you know, we have problems every time we have this type of flooding. The good news is it doesn't happen that often, and we always get through it.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk stormwater rates. Now, I know that early on, when this stuff was released or when implemented at the end of last year, it got a lot of fallout. And I noticed that when the information was released on these new stormwater rates, or the conjecture about the rates being, moving forward, that it was stated on how they could work, not on how they would work. Which I think a lot of people had the impression that it was like, well, you said before. Now, the rates the models and the work that we've done so far on the stormwater stuff, where are we at on this? Earlier, you were saying that about 30% of the city's impervious area is relative to the streets, the thoroughfares.
Correct.
So what we're doing is taking that area and dividing that 30% of the area and dividing that up between all residents and businesses.
No, we're not doing that. That's a proposal that I have made for staff to bring us numbers on. My thoughts is that everybody drives the streets of Lubbock. 30% of our cost, almost $10 million a year, that we've spent on stormwater mediation, is a direct result of all the streets in Lubbock that we all enjoy the use of. So I think it's only fair to spread that cost amongst everybody. It'd be about $9 per parcel. And then you've got much less of a hurdle to come up with the remaining $14-15 million to pay down the debt that this city's incurred over the last 20 years. So we're a long ways from any settlement on the council. I'm on one extreme. I would really like to see us go back to the old rates. They were much fairer, much simpler. We didn't have to spend $2 million in consulting fees to come up with them. They worked. Then I've got Councilman Hernandez on the other far extreme, and he wants to go to where the largest businesses in this community would go from paying $92 a month, which is what they paid a year ago, up to $2,500 a month. And then I think we've got everybody else in between somewhere. So I'm not real hopeful that we're going to come up with any good solutions. I think we're all too far apart right now.
So in that particular instance, stormwater runoff for a business would be $30,000 a year? Am I correct in assuming that, if that were implemented that way?
Well, right now we're spending $24 million a year in the stormwater department, paying down the debt and paying staff.
Yeah, but I was talking about if a business was paying that much, it'd be a big business would be paying $30,000.
Correct.
Wow.
So, and the problem with that, here again, it's just politics, because even Victor's smart enough to know that won't work. And it makes him, I think, feel like he looks good to his constituents. But the problem is when you do something that radical, you incentivize the largest taxpayers, the largest employers in the city to move out of the city. So here again, I think we're going from one extreme all the way to the other, and we've got everybody in various positions in the middle.
Okay, any idea on timetable on when the hair pulling is going to stop and we start really putting stuff down on paper and saying this is it?
Well, we started that process yesterday. It's problem is we've got 7 different people asking staff to bring back all these different models. What we did finally get accomplished yesterday is we all agreed on just kind of some basic facts, and so we do have staff working on a little bit more narrowed focus. I will tell you, I'm not optimistic. I don't think the way this council is right now, the composition of this council, and the difference of opinions on this subject, I don't think we're going to get very far on stormwater. Matter of fact, I'm more concerned that if we do make changes, we'll figure out a way to make it worse than we already did the last time.
And what is the relative revenue from last year before we made the changes? What's the difference in revenue generation for the city between where we were a little over a year ago to where we are right now?
Budget to budget, zero.
And we're paying more, and is that because...
Well, not everybody's paying more. That's a false statement. A lot of people are paying a tremendous amount less than they were paying a year ago. Now, the overall revenue budget for that fund has gone up, but it was going to go up regardless of the rate model change. And the reason it's gone up is the debt's gone up, and we have to pay that debt down.
So that would be just relative interest, but also hasn't operating expense gone up a little bit too?
No, operating expense has not gone up in that department. The only thing that actually went up a little bit in that department was all the consultant fees that we paid and are still paying to take a system that really worked, and it worked well for 23 years, and get it to the point where we've got now, where I think we've got a system that is not working.
Okay, relatively speaking, we're talking about the debt and where we're at, and I know that a lot of things previous were coming out of stormwater that weren't really stormwater, right?
Well, the previous councils had said that they considered the streets being the main conduit that the stormwaters ran down. So they put street maintenance in the stormwater department, which I don't agree with. I can understand how they got there. My biggest problem with it is that they were financing, and we still are, because we don't have the courage to handle our budgeting right. Financing routine maintenance of streets. Now, we cut out about $3.5 million of that last year and cash funded it, but we still financed over $6.5 million of that maintenance cost.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing, and when I say confusing, it's almost like sands through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives. If you don't follow this stuff and stay up with it, man, you go on vacation for, a week or so, and you come back. I mean, sometimes things are just different.
Well, if you look at the last 30 days, I think we've got a lot of proof that our stormwater mitigation has worked. South Loop and the Quaker, 20 years ago, if we'd had this type of rain event, would be underwater 30 to 45 days. We've moving that water out of that intersection in less than 5 hours. Now, I'm still getting emails of people complaining that in a 6-inch rain, we've got flooded intersections. But what's amazing is we're literally within hours, sometimes 1 or 2 hours, moving all that water out of the city, moving it downstream. It's also the first step in a very long-range plan to eventually build Lake 7 and recapture all of this stormwater runoff. So there's been a lot of bad information put out there. We've got a very small group of very militant people fighting us on this, and they're putting out bad information.
Well, I will tell you this. Now, we both own property on Texas Avenue.
Yes.
I'll tell you, at 25th and Texas, in the gutter, water was knee-deep yesterday. And once it quit raining, in about 45 minutes,
it's gone.
It was gone.
Exactly.
It's 3 inches in the gutter.
That's right.
We'll be back. Mayor Glenn Robertson here. If you'd like to make a comment, ask a question, ring us up, 770-5790. Okay. $49 million is what we're looking at, I guess, to move forward on some of these construction projects. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Citizens Tower?
Citizens Tower is the best estimates we have today, and these are finally some very good, solid professional estimates on what it would take for us as a city to go in and completely gut that building, renovate it, and reutilize it for a future city hall. That number is going to be just shy of $49 million. And when you add the money that we're going to have to spend, we've already spent purchasing the building, and you add the cost of architecture services and engineering services, we'll be in the $55 million range there. We'll be in the $20 million range when we completely renovate what is now currently City Hall for a future police department. So for those two facilities, including a new property storage room for PD, we're looking at approximately $75 million. Now, to put that in perspective, we were talking about $65 to $75 million just to create a new PD a year and a half ago. So what we will end up with this plan is a very nice structure for City Hall that should work very nicely for this city for the next 30 to 50 years. We should be able to create a virtually brand new police department that will have another lifespan of 30 to 50 years, and do all of this in the same price range that we were talking about just creating one facility before. So I've been negative on this project up till now simply because we didn't have enough facts to be positive. But with the numbers we're getting, with the architect that we hired last night, I'm extremely excited about moving forward with this project. That'd be great for Lubbock.
All right. This is kind of a misconception, I think, as we were discussing off mic earlier. I was thinking that the Citizens Tower building, is just huge. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a big building. But it's not that much bigger than the current City Hall.
It's really not. It's right at a little over 200,000 square feet. The good thing about that building is all of that space is usable. The current City Hall is about 185,000 square feet, but the basement in City Hall is in the way City Hall is laid out. It was an old retail Sears store is what it was. We have so much wasted and unusable space. So this is going to be an opportunity for much better space utilization. It's going to give us an opportunity to consolidate a bunch of departments, hopefully get LP&L back in the same building with the rest of the city. I think we'll be able to do away with some redundancies in staff over the long term. Plus, it gives the police, and here's the other misconception, is that we've had police thinking that they're going to a smaller building. They would be going to a larger building, and they would have 100% of the building. So as right now they're having to share with municipal court. Hopefully we would have municipal court in the new Citizens Tower with us in the future. So I think if you sit down and really look at all the facts and analyze this opportunity, that people will realize this is going to be great for Lubbock moving forward.
Okay, I was unaware that was an old Sears building, but that explains where the escalator came from.
Yeah, that was Sears' first retail store in Lubbock, Texas. I can remember as a kid, a very young kid, being in that retail store with my parents. So,
getting in trouble for stopping the escalator?
Well,
yeah,
no
doubt.
But it's, that building is, and it needs a complete gutting and redoing to make a PD. But once that's done, I will tell you, I think we're going to be in really good shape moving forward.
Well, if you look at the square footage, if you actually go in to City Hall, if you've ever been in City Hall, if you remove that escalator and replace it with an elevator or elevators, my gosh, man, you're going to be picking up a bunch of footage.
Yeah, of course, there's already 2 elevators in that building.
Right.
And the escalator does take up a tremendous amount of space right out of the center of that building. Like I said, that the space utilization in that building is terrible for the use that we're using it for. So this is going to be a very solid move going forward. We're going to have the naysayers out in droves on this, but I will promise you that all of the naysayers will be typical. They won't have their facts, and they won't be looking at the long-term effect on Lubbock for the next 30 or 50 years.
Right. Well, my next question, maybe we can answer that when we come back, is where's a man selling a used escalator? Go figure. In conversation with Mayor Glenn Robertson, talking about Citizens Tower and the new City Hall. Go to the phone, 770-5790. What's up, Chuck?
First of all, I'd just like to say congratulations to the city for what I think is a very worthwhile project. But I do have a couple of questions. The Citizens Tower purchase, does that include that entire, I guess it's a 2-block area, including the parking structure that's there? And what I'm really concerned about is there adequate parking for the general public in that neighborhood? How will that affect the other businesses in that area?
It does include the parking garage, and that's part of the plans. That and I can't remember the number of spots in that parking garage, but it is almost double what we currently have at City Hall. What it does not include is the old Chamber of Commerce building over on the east side across the street, across Texas.
That answer your question, Chuck?
Well, the question is, where's the public going to park?
In the public parking garage that is attached to the Citizens Tower.
And that's large enough for the public to park as well as all of the employees.
Yes, sir. Like I say, it's about double the parking capacity we have at the current City Hall.
All right, why don't you buy that building across the street?
That building across the street isn't for sale, and I'm not so sure that we have a need for it right now. While I understand that a lot of property owners in downtown would like for us to buy every dilapidated building and spend taxpayers' money to fix it, when we don't have a need for it, I'm not sure that's a good expenditure of taxpayers' monies.
Well, I'm not sure either. I'm just saying that I would say eventually that would be an excellent spot for extra parking for City Hall.
Well, I'm not so sure that I think where we disagree, Chuck, I don't think we're going to have a parking issue, but time will have to be the one that tells that.
All right, thanks a lot.
Hey, man, good point, Chuck. Thanks for the call. Parking right now, if you go into City Hall, well, let me say this. There are places that you can park, but most people that are parking over at City Hall to go in, like pull a permit or, go into building inspection or something like that, everybody wants to park up right by the door.
Well, of course they do.
Not everybody wants to park where you can park.
Well, and that's not any different at City Hall than it is South Plains Mall.
No, I get it.
We've got adequate parking where we're at now. We'll have more than adequate parking in the new facility. So I really don't think parking is going to be an issue at all.
Yeah. Okay, hang with us at 7:51. Good morning. Hey, we were talking about Citizens Tower and the new City Hall, and what about the parking structure relative to City Hall? Mayor did a quick search on the number of parking spots. I think you have about 200 employees at City Hall, right. Currently 250 spots. In the new parking garage, not including off-street parking,
418 parking spots.
All right. So, that's. I think that's more than ample. It
is a lot more available parking than would be required by code for a commercial operation to go back into that building.
Now, I'm not real familiar with everything and the structure and the way all that's tied together. Is that parking garage actually physically tied to?
Yes, it has
tunnels
underneath that go across to the tower, and also across to an adjacent corner that was the old depository when that was a bank operation.
Right. Okay, finally, let's go to the issue of the land warehouse.
The land warehouse was brought to us a year and a half ago. It was a dilapidated structure.
Okay, hold on just a second before we go forward with this. The land warehouse is in Yellow House in Buddy Holly Park.
That's where I was trying to get to.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It is a dilapidated structure in the old Buddy Holly Park that had historic significance, and council voted to spend a little over $800,000 completely redoing it. Last night on a 4-3 vote, we voted to literally hand this over to a nonprofit organization that Mr. Hernandez used to be the director of. A nonprofit that we gave a building to in 2003 that they haven't been able to maintain. So now we're giving them another building that costs the taxpayers a little over $800,000. And we're assuming they're going to maintain this one. We're also not only allowing them free use of it, but we're allowing them to lease the facility out to anybody else they choose to, and they're going to get to keep the revenue. So I thought it was a terrible deal for our taxpayers, but Mr. Hernandez gathered 4 votes, so it's a done deal.
So let me get this straight. We put an 800G in this thing.
Correct.
When we could have scraped it off the slab and rebuilt one for probably
$400,000.
Wow. What's the significance of this?
It was a historic building, and everybody agreed a couple of years ago, let's do this and turn it into a community center for everybody to be able to use in North Lubbock. Well, what we've done now is we've decided that instead of just making it a community center for everybody, we have handpicked and chosen a specific charity to take over that building, and I don't think that's fair to the taxpayers that paid for the complete renovation.
What about responsibility for maintenance and upkeep and repairs and things like that. Is that on taxpayer or is that on Fiesta Sellano?
It's on Fiestas, but they've had that same responsibility for the last 12 years on their facility at 3rd and University, and have proven that they're incapable of doing that.
Wow. 20 years, huh?
Yes.
Sounds like a prison sentence to me.
Well, it's, I think it's a great deal for Fiestas. I think it's a terrible deal for the taxpayers.
I need to find a deal like that.
Yes, sir. Me and you both.
I'll get in line. Hey, man, thanks for rolling out this morning. Appreciate it.